all relations. Let's get started today. And remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Okay, support the algorithm for me. Today we're speaking about being the source. Okay, being the source code. Okay, if you guys have watched that movie, it has nothing to do with the movie, but the movie loops, right? It constantly loops. And this is our real lives, okay? It's constantly looping. And we find ourselves as loopers in these different loops. And we've got to understand a way to take our power back from the loop, right? And we do this by understanding our comfort zones, okay? So we have something called our comfort zones, and then we have something called our stretch zone, and then we have something called our panic zone, okay? So when you go from comfort to stretch zone, you're in the clear, right? You're okay. You're in the zone, you're maybe tapped in a little bit more, you're wired in a little bit more. But the moment it hits panic zone, you start to actually backslide and go backwards, and then it doesn't end up the way that you want it because it's getting to that point of fear, okay? Now, you want to start to understand that, wait a second, my comfort zone, right, is my own creation. Because if my comfort zone is somebody else's creation, then it cannot be a comfort zone, right? Your comfort zone is yours. That's the first thing to understand, okay? Once you know that your comfort zone is yours, you can start to edit and realize that you are the source of it, okay? So that means that once you go from comfort zone and you're being the source of your actions, you're being the source of your actions, meaning you know the stop and start of your actions. If you're being the source of your attention, you are knowing where to put your attention, where not to put your attention, right? When you're being the source of your speech, you know not to ramble on, and you're very conscious of where you are starting your speech and ending your speech, right? And so the moment we get into subconscious, though, that's when we enter the flow state, right? So we get into an unconscious competence or a subconscious competence, right? Because it's second nature to us at that point. So let's say that you're a really good dancer and you've been dancing for many, many, many years. You will reach that sense of mastery of dancing after a while that you don't have to think about it. Right? It becomes automatic for you to just dance. And maybe even improvised dance, right? Because that's using more parts of the brain that are associated with freestyle and like spontaneity and so forth. So you really want to start to understand like, okay, I have my comfort zone, I have my stretch zone, and I also have where I have my source, right? And so once I understand my source code, I can then allow it to go to where it needs to go, right? Now, once you understand that you have the source code, and you understand that with the source code, there is something else that is in the play, right? Once you understand that there's something else at play, there is some other mechanism. Perhaps you have a dance teacher that's affecting you. Perhaps you have someone in your head that's renting, rent-free space in your head. So you want to start to understand, like, what is really causing me to shrink my power and stay stuck in this loop of my comfort zone instead of expanding out into the stretch zone, right? Now, let's say you have a fear of heights, right? You have a fear of heights and you go up a very high mountain, right? And your heart is beating out your chest and you think you can't do it, right? You think this is impossible. How could I possibly do this? Your fear is rising in your whole body, right? However, you do it anyway, okay? And that's one tick off your bucket list. Maybe you did that. Okay, and now that fear has a threshold, right? So your baseline of your fear went from here to me leaning into my edge of my fear, right? Through getting rid of this height thing, height phobia or whatever. So you could do this with any phobia, but start to understand, like, I remember when I went to my first event in Bali, I understood that I was really scared of the water, right? And I just went straight into snorkeling. I went straight into jet skiing. Right? I started to go into those processes because that's what would be most effortless and easy for me to understand that if I did this one thing, it would set up so many other things. Why? Because in my mind, that's like a dragon to slay, right? And everybody has a different dragon to slay in their own personal life, okay? Some people, they have a giant tower to crawl up, and some people, they have little, mini jumps that they're doing. However, you can't compare your journey to anybody else's in this game. And I'm telling you why, because you have been glitched here perfectly in accordance to your alignment, right? And your path. So that doesn't mean that you can't use other people as a reflection. Of course you can, right? You can understand that, okay, you can measure yourself against somebody else and gain that reference point. But I'm saying that you are so unique. You are a unique fingerprint. And maybe you are more adaptable than you think, okay? Maybe you are more spontaneous and adaptable than you think you are. And that you're actually limiting yourself and constantly telling yourself, like, this is not possible, I can't do this. If they can do it and I can't, then that means that, right? And then you're concluding certain things about yourself, which keeps you in that box, keeps you in that limit, so that you can't access outside of it, right? Now, the thing about this is, if you slow down the movement that you're tense about, right? And you can try this as an exercise. You draw a circle, and then you draw a bigger circle around it, okay? Now, in the first circle, write down the things that you're comfortable with, okay? Whatever you're comfortable with, write it down. And in the larger circle, what you're going to be focusing on is things that you're uncomfortable with, right? Things that spike your cortisol, things that make you feel like, oh my goodness, like there's so much resistance in this one task. What's going on here? Right? Write them down. And then you will start to understand that for other people, right? And you can ask your friends about it, or somebody else from a different perspective, different, circumstances. And you'll start to notice that perhaps their version of their comfort zone is like my uncomfort zone, and my uncomfort zone is their comfort zone, right? And so that kind of comparison also puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Because you're starting to understand that, okay, I'm not only on this journey just by myself, okay? Going on this path. Hey there, love. Oh, how do I wave to you on this? I don't know. Oh, I can't wave back. Okay. So I was just speaking about this idea of comfort zones, and this idea being that once you're comfortable at a certain thing or a task that you're doing, you can then start to expand that task, right, into something way greater because you have ultimate mastery over that task. So let's say you're a really good painter, right? You love painting. Then you get to understand that, oh, if I really like painting, that means I can go into illustrations, right? It's close enough to that realm. So once something is close enough to a realm, you can actually realm hop, okay? So once you get really comfortable with painting, now it's second nature to you. Now it's subconscious skill set, right? Subconscious competence. And I'm here while writing exam. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here, sweetheart. And so if you understand that there is a very, very specific protocol that you can follow, and you can go about it in such a way that you're going out of your comfort zone into your stretch zone, something that is taking you closer and closer towards your edge, okay? So let's just say that the gym, for example, right? Bodybuilding. I just came from the gym, got dressed, right? Looking like a Victorian era, like Matrix glitcher, right? Looking like Saint Germain. Okay? So, I love you too, baby. I have understood that there's such a power to us being the source code in our lives. And what do I mean by that? I mean that you can decide when you are the source of your life. There's so much power, so much elegance, so much effortlessness once you remain in this mentality. And what is this mentality? It's to remain and be undefinable. Okay? It's to be so undefinable that they cannot put you in any box, any category, any coordinates. They can try, but they can't touch your realm. They cannot touch your dimension. And the reason why they cannot touch your dimension is because you have such a unique dimension. Okay? Now you can tell someone, hey, why don't you come and see what my dimension's like? Right? You can do that, and that should be your aura already. That's your embodiment, your aura, your alignment already, right? So like attracts like, or whatever they say in the new age, okay? But also, let's try to understand that once you have really solidified that you are undefinable, why don't you become the one who is the definer, right? Ellie says, I almost have the same shirt at home. Yeah, I know. We have a similar style, huh, baby? So once we understand that I can remain so fluid and adaptable that I do not need to keep myself stuck to one paradigm. Okay, I can have multiple multi-dimensional paradigms, and I can choose which paradigm serves me the most. Right? And that's what being undefinable is you can't put somebody into a box, you can't catch them, they're unhookable, they're unfarmable, and they are so weaving and adapting that you can't condense them into a proper meaning and a proper sentence. And, oh, this is their date of birth, and let me take down their classifications. Oh, they're this old. Oh, they have this job, right? You can classify someone. You can put someone into the box. You can say that they have this, caste system, but you cannot ever define that individual. How can you define somebody without your own sense of definition, right? So it's constant redefinition that's going on in this world. And I've started to understand this epiphany today. Okay, I am going to remain undefinable, meaning I'm going to be iridescent, adaptable, weavable, ghost-like, transparent, right? Being able to weave through all multiple realms simultaneously. And once you can be there in that zone, you will quickly see how you're speeding through the astral, right? Without speeding tickets, right? They don't have any speeding tickets in the astral, unfortunately, okay? There's people, okay? It's like the Jetsons over there. So there's constant, chaos around in these realms. However, it's all dependent on your psyche, right? There's many different ways to do it. And one way is to just be very sharp within your own psychology, right? Your own mind, your own mental palace. And when you make that strong, right, you will remain undefinable. And you will be the source code at the same time, okay? At the same damn time, at the same damn time. Once we get that, okay, I have now, every day, I'm now challenging myself to get a little bit more out of my comfort zone, right? And it starts with doing these live videos again. Because in a live video, I can't posture, I can't edit anything, I can't, suddenly start to edit and move and switch things and start to, adapt things. I can't take something and shrink it down, right? And once you know that you can't shrink something down to its very molecule, right? You just know it as it is now, right? So like when I look at a tree, I'm not looking at all of the vibrating atoms of that tree, right? I'm just seeing a tree. It's an end product. It's a goal. So I'm going to label everyone as an end product. Oh, that person is like this. They're a beta male. This person is like that. They're, a crook. Right? So I'm putting labels on things to try to classify them so my own ego can feel comfortable that I've classified all these people in my life and that I am like this and I am doing this, right? And then it puts you back into your ego mind identity where you can't really thrive with this new paradigm of being in the stretch zone because your ego mind identity wants to keep you in the comfort zone, right? And once you're in that comfort zone, you start to realize that there is something else that is taking place here. Right? And once you understand there's something else taking place here, you can actually start to expand that realm into the very mechanism of what you are trying to accomplish and do. Okay? And I want you to try to understand the very nature that you have. Okay? It's not unnatural, your nature. So I'm not saying for you to be conscious while doing everything, right? So it's a state of recognition, yeah. And it's a state of remembrance too. Because once you're remembering, you're going back to your original membership, right? You were born here on a soul contract, here to be here and be here now, be alive and experience life from such a place where you can excavate your inner world. Once you know that, okay, I have accomplished XYZ, and now I can take this particular paradigm and now I can weave and adapt it, right? It's not XYZ anymore because it's in motion, right? So XYZ in motion starts to become maybe ZXY, right? As it's in motion, but it still has the basic initial formula, okay? So this is the way that we have to look at our own lives. Like, okay, we have a very unique formula, but we're still interconnected to these unique fingerprints, right? And we're all interacting with these unique characters in this video game called life. Also, we can remember that we are source again, right? That we're coming from this paradigm that, wait a minute, it's God who has manifested himself into all of these different characters and different beings, right? And once we understand that, our journey becomes then a reflection of that inner outer world interaction that's going to happen, right? So if you're shaming your inner world, right? If you're like, oh, I'm not good enough to do that, right? That's deserving, okay? So you can feel like I don't deserve something, but you are born worthy, right? You were born worthy. I actually wrote something down the other day around worthiness, and I wrote down this specifically because it kind of woke my system awake. Worthiness is the truth that you arrive here with. Okay, what's up, Guido? Worthiness is the truth that you arrive here with. So when you're trying to build towards your worth, right, it's actually taking away from your worth, right? Does a bird or a mammal, right? Let's take a mammal. Let's take a tiger, okay? Is a tiger ever trying to question its own worth? Or is it just running the program? It's just running the source code. It's just running nature's code, right? And this is what we've got to be leaning into as well. I'm not saying be an animal and be wild, right? Of course, be a civilized mammal, right? Of course, be a conscious animal, okay? Yes, be a mindful carnivore, okay? Don't try to just become an animal, but animals are in the zone. They are in the flow. They have the nature's code. And so if you're around a lot of animals, you'll start to notice this interaction with them, right? Because if you're in the zone, they're in the zone all of a sudden, right? Because they're reading your energy signature. And a lot of animals like to follow me around, man. I've had woodpeckers, okay? The past couple of weeks have been woodpeckers, white pigeons or doves showing up, you know, hawks all the time, like falcons, but they're called black kites over here, birds of all kinds. So that's just higher realms, right? Higher perspectives. And that's why it's really tough, you know, when you get very into the lower realms, you'll start seeing more like snakes or like underground, like scorpions, snakes, like desert animals, like very insectoid beings, right? Like this kind of stuff. Like it really depends on where you're at with your own synchronization, right? And patterns. And sometimes just to balance it out, right? The lower realms need the higher realms to kind of work together. That's why we call it the Nagaruda, right? The Nagaruda is the Nagas who are in the Pataloka, in the undersoul, and the oversoul or the Garudas, right? Up in heaven in the celestial realms. Sounds like karma, yeah. Guido has a question. He says, not gonna lie, I've been struggling. The only time I felt like deserving was when I felt like I had to battle or argue with people for what I believe is mine. Why do I feel worthy in war? Okay. That's the thing, Guido. What is yours will always remain yours. Okay? You don't need to fight for it. That's the thing. When you fight for it, you're showing that that thing is in scarcity, right? When you're trying to cling to it, It's showing that it has a very big importance to your ego mind identity, right? But if it was just another thing, it wouldn't have that much of a deep impression in your subconscious, right? So try and observe where you know the knowingness, not your belief systems, but where you know you can thrive, where you know you can double down on this right now, where you know that there is a skill set in this particular area that I know can outlast any other area. And right now, brother, everybody's struggling, okay? This is why I got to come out here and speak to the public like this. Everybody's going through some kind of a funk right now. Okay, the planet is like reshuffling its cards or something like this, right? We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on. But what we can do is we can reclaim and take our power back, right? So what I want you all guys to do is one of these days, right before you sleep, you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I reclaim back all of my soul fragments. Okay, I reclaim back all of my soul fragments. And you can listen to a subliminal or a morphic field. You can type them into YouTube, right? Morphic field, soul retrieval. Morphic field, soul fragments. Okay, write these up, listen to them in the background, do the mirror work, go to sleep. I am telling you, you will wake up with so much energy and power. Okay, the thing is, we've been sending our energy to all of these soul fragments from past timelines, from other worldly contracts, right? Random implants or different things that are just constantly splitting us. But once we can reclaim that power, once we can call back our soul towards our own physicality, towards our own bodies, right? That's what's going to set us off. Presence versus performance blueprint. Many men have that deeply rooted subconscious, takes time and focus. Yeah. Time and focus indeed. It takes patience, right? And patience is a survival value. It's really important, to be able to have that difference of like, am I performing? Am I posturing myself to be cool? Or am I just here being present, sending massive value, right? There's a big difference. One is like, okay, how do I say the most badass thing to impress the collective? The other one is like, you know what? This just needs to be said right now. And there's a deep knowingness there, right? So it's like you are trying to wake up your I am signature, your I am presence, okay? Remember that I am is God is. So if you're saying I am broke, you're saying God is broke, and that's blasphemy. So you cannot speak bad to yourself, okay? Don't speak bad to yourself. Try and see it from the perspective that I am here and I am me, only me, and nobody else, and yet I am still interconnected with all there is, right? I think these feelings come from theft and betrayal. Ooh, yeah, that's trauma work, brother. That sounds like. I feel like I made mistakes for being too forgiving in the past, and now I'm possibly overcorrecting. Got you. Yeah, man, compensation, betrayal, right? Where you get like hyper aggressive and you can only set boundaries from anger or something like this, right? That's all trauma work. So the best way to deal with that is honestly like one of your most toughest challenges, Guido, would probably be to surrender to the divine, right? It sounds cute to say on social media, but to actually do that, right? To sit with yourself and actually like let go is tough, right? It's it's like a Cirque du Soleil performance, bro. It's not easy. It's not a 1-2 buckle my shoe, right? Like I said, it is a complex maneuver to be able to heal years of trauma because it's all from our childhood and all these like codes that are in the background, right? And they're going to start to trickle through in this timeline now so that you can correct them, Take refuge in Lord Buddha. Yeah, take refuge in all the Ascended Masters. They're brilliant. Shout out Yeshua, Jesus, Buddha, Babaji, okay? Maybe not some of those made up ones by the Theosophical Society, okay? Let's not go there. But yeah, definitely take refuge. Have a spirit team, right? Have someone that you can trust have a close wolf pack, okay? A flow pack, which is wolf backwards. Have a flow pack, and if you haven't found one yet, you can join the Telegram group. We have different podcasts every week and different channelings, which are also you can attend, okay? So if you haven't ever attended a channeling Guido, you might want to tap in for one of those, okay? They're always different beings, so maybe one week you resonate and you hop in, right? You just trust your intuition. Oftentimes people show up there with like kind of no expectations, or they'll have like one deep, question to ask or something like this. Others, they just show up with a notepad ready to learn. But some people, they will like get this one answer and then they'll dip. And I like those people too. They get the help that they need, right? But still, it's like, you got to refine this thing and understand that there's a progression to all of it. This year, I'm very angry. I feel vindicated as a conspiracy theorist because of the e-files, but it's a Pyrrhic victory because so much has been lost for that revelation. Chaotic energy is building in the USA. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. And I think we're all angry, right? And I think they want us to be angry, right? They want to rage bait us. They want to create more outrage. And the thing about this is, why would they suddenly release like 50% and then hold back and then try to like maneuver things and then understand there's like some political debacle going on in the background, right? Now, I'm not here to talk about politics today, but still, this comes to understand, like, if you are the source code, you understand that it is not left versus right. It's not up and down. It's not black and white, right? You have to stay as the midpoint to understand all of it, right? And to understand all of it, you understand that I'm not gonna listen, I'm anti-BS, right? I'm anti like falsehood. So let me actually just lean into my truth and power, right? And show up with that Holy Spirit, with that Buddha nature, right? With that violet flame, and just keep like going forwards, right? Into being a good walking example of source energy, right? I wish I had more brothers and sisters in my life, okay? And I'm talking about friends, homies, right? Flomies, that resonates, right? That resonates with a similar kind of energy that I'm looking for, right? And I think energy is one of those words that likes to get thrown around in the spiritual community quite a lot, but once you understand it, it's so simple, right? It's so simple, it's almost, why aren't more people doing this, right? You start to ask. Hey, it works differently for other people, right? Maybe somebody in a past life had something against EFT tapping, and now they can't do it. They're trying to do it online, right? They're trying to, I love myself, but it's not working. Like something is blocked, right, for this individual. That's their karmic shift, right? They have to work through something there very uniquely. Now, if I am a practitioner and I'm like, no, but you just need to do EFT tapping, right? And I just give them some kind of a protocol, and then they try doing it and they fail, right? And then I start to take the blame as a practitioner, right? That's completely off, right? You guys sense where that's off. So you got to understand that, okay, this person has clearly tried it. It hasn't worked. Let me tweak it differently for them, right? Let me have them only focus in on one spot. I muscle test it for them. And I start to realize that maybe their neck is holding like some sense of pain, right? Because they're constantly having a battle with the mind and the body, and then their neck shows up in pain. So then I understand that, hey, what if they did this every day, right? And they use this technique to just hold on to the pressure of the neck and to kind of like power pose at the same time, right? And that one tweak of them just tapping like this to going like this can shift their entire paradigm around, actually. And this is what you want to be able to do as a flow Jedi, right? You kind of want to take the thing that you're doing and then weave, adapt with it, find new angles, new layers. Okay, I can't go this way. I'll use the underground railway. You know what I'm saying? Ashe, what's up, brother? Young Hefe, what's good? All right, guys. Any last questions? Anything? I got to wrap up soon, okay? I thought I'd keep this 30 minutes. Shout out to Uncle Makara. The game has changed to so many levels. Absolutely. Hey, we keep editing the game, right? We keep editing the patch code of the game. Or new avatars keep coming out. Oh, man. Too many modifications, right? Thanks for the insight. Hey, you got it, bro. You got it. Again, this is all Source Energy. Thank you so much to God, Source, for giving me these downloads right now to help the collective. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so be it, Swaha. Thank you, guys, okay? If there's no more other questions or comments, I'm gonna head out. Thank you so much for being here. One love. Take care of yourselves, okay? I know it's tough out there, but stay sane, stay level-headed. Be the most level-headed out of your homies, okay? Out of all of your flomies, be the most peace, okay? Be the most centered out of all of them, right? And then you will be the lighthouse, where all the boats in the darkness can find their way, right? There's a stormy sea out there, and it's dark, but you are the shining light that gives people the bright direction on their path, on their Tao, on their Dharma. Let's get it today. Upward spiral gang to infinity and beyond. Let's keep winning, guys, okay? May the flow be with you. It's our time now. Up that time, I got. Okay, let's win, okay? Winning! One love. Let's win.